Sponsor an orphan, and you'll help support a vulnerable child to have the education they've always dreamed of, so they can build a brighter future. You'll be feeding a hungry stomach and a hungry mind with knowledge that will last them a lifetime. That's the power of an education. Sponsor an orphan now with Islamic Relief. Sponsor an orphan, and you'll help support a vulnerable child.
Apologies last week. Bear with me. Came on. I myself. Did not. Feeling better. Well, and my attitude. Have so, I thought this show would be a little bit. Everything in the news is either Colorado, Ukraine, most other things. December, we all get this information. And something hit me today. On there, it was, sacrifice for free, a little better. Might not be the story, it might be me. In my voice. All right, please, a little bit better. Might be my computer. Email. Hey, hold on a minute, everybody. Let me try to work. Okay, let me know if this is better. I just have to go to the microphone today. Is this better? Is this better? So we got all audio problems, but not. Let me see. Can't hear me. Let me see. Okay, better. I think we got better here. So I might have to go with the microphone. I'm not sure what. Okay, we're all good. All right, we're all good. Thank you, team. Appreciate you, Doug. Thank you, Doug. My audio guys, like the sound is bad. Hopefully the video is okay. So what I was saying was, I chose a topic today Um, and the reason I chose it was literally because I was sitting around watching stuff. When you get sick, you watch YouTube sometimes, and I was watching Tavis Smiley, who used to be on BET, and he had a show on PBS for a number of years, and he was talking about the genius of Prince, and then it spilled over to the genius of Michael Jackson, and then it spilled over to Quincy Jones, and I've never really showcased Quincy Jones here on the show, but he's been quietly behind the scenes in the entertainment world, along with Charles Avant. Really a mover and a shaker in terms of the social texture of entertainment, how entertainment engages with social activity. Quincy Jones did, We Are the World. Quincy Jones did. Okay, one. Hold on a minute. Let me try and. I don't know why we're having sound problems today. Let me try to switch back to the computer. Okay, team, is that better? Otherwise, I'm gonna have to lean in. Okay, is that better? Anybody? Everybody? Okay. Okay, I'll have to rock from here now. So, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to start the show, and I'm going to try. Okay, all right, cool. Thank you, Altaf. We're just going to skip the intro because we wasted a couple minutes trying to get the sound right. I don't know what's going on. Thank you. So I started out talking about Quincy Jones, Charles Avant, who are basically giants in the music industry, in the entertainment industry. Charles Avant was not a musician, was not an entertainer. Of course, Quincy Jones was a musician, composer, producer worldwide. But what I thought was interesting was understanding their whole aspect of genius. In terms of Quincy Jones and Charles Avant, here are the things that I recognize as I was hearing about Prince and listening to Tavis Smiley talk about Prince and talking about Michael Jackson and genius. That both of them were gone. Michael Jackson is no longer here. Prince is no longer here. And the two guys that you have, Charles Avant and Quincy Jones, are well into the 80s. Quincy Jones is 89 years old. And I started trying to ruminate and say, why is he still relevant? He's still doing things. He's still out interacting. He's still looking at material. And it comes down to the fact that he knocked into something that he truly loved. He has a quote that I'll share with you. And the quote that he shares is, you can never get an A if you're afraid to get an F. Let me say it again. You can never get an A if you're afraid to get an F. Meaning that you have to be willing to fail to succeed. And not just fail for the sake of failing, that you have to learn from the failure. A lot of us are afraid to fail, but we don't understand sometimes that you fail up. And when I'm talking about failing up, what I mean is sometimes we take on tasks that are a little bit beyond our capacity because we want to learn how to expand that capacity. And Quincy Jones has produced a number of I won't say stars, but he's produced vehicles for stars. Michael Jackson was just little Michael Jackson before Off the Wall, and then it was Off the Wall, and then it was Thriller, then it was Bad, and he became this megastar. And it could be the same of him launching a lot of other artists. The thing that was beautiful in researching Quincy Jones is you understand that he's been around for a long time. He's one of the few artists that when you look at him, you can't call him an artist just per se. He's a visionary. And the beautiful thing about him being a visionary is that he is one of the few people that can decategorize everything. Like, I can't call him a jazz musician because he can play all kinds of music. Can't just say, okay, he's a producer. A producer what? Music, plays, art, film. He's been on all of these categories. And I felt it important to talk about it today because in this time, I feel like we're all being categorized. That we're all somehow being put in a box, particularly as we get to the 22 midterm elections going into 2024. It's going to be us versus them or them versus us. And if you listen to the artistry of Quincy Jones and his baseline assessments of being a part of something that you love, that the thing that you do for no money is the thing you love, that is the thing you might want to pursue in terms of giving you overall happiness. I'm talking about maybe just a generic understanding of joy is something maybe we need to get back to. Now we're going to take a break, and I'm going to go ahead and start the show. And I'm going to welcome everybody who's, thank you so much for sticking with me. I know we had some problems with the audio at the beginning. I don't know what that is. By my computer, I haven't been on for a moment, but we're here now. So I'll be right back. Let's get started, brothers. Just talking about don't sleep on the genius of Quincy Jones. All right, and we're back. So without further ado, let me get everybody in. Everybody's been so patient with me. I want to make sure I give everybody some love. Shout out to Sister Ree. How you doing, Sister Ree? Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi barakatuh to you. Hubby Derek, and of course, son Jawad. I hope everybody's doing well. You're blessed. Good to hear from you. Shout out to my main man, Mr. 6 o'clock, Altar Rashid, straight up, straight down. A Canadian envoy to the show, man. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're tuning in late, again, I apologize, brothers and sisters. I just was sick Wednesday and Thursday, and I didn't even want to come up here and waste people's time because I couldn't even talk. I lost my voice. So please forgive me for that. Thank you guys for sticking with me. Shout out to brother Eric Carter. Wa alaikum assalam rahmatullahi barakatuh to you, beloved. Thank you so much for joining us today. Appreciate it. And I'm going to give a shout out to my main man, Doug, looking out for me. He said the audio problems, but not. Hey, Doug, thank you so much for tuning in on the show. Doug hooks me up on a lot of music. Doug, there is a interview with Quincy Jones. I'm going to send it to you after the show. And I think you should, if you really want to see the interview, go to permissible laughter at gmail.com, permissible laughter at gmail.com. Tell me you like the video, and I will email it out to you. It's something that you should watch. It's really genius in a time capsule. Songs that were sort of like Motown and track to your life, except for they're a bit more creative and they're a little bit more expansive. My late mentor, Harry Weber, was the first artistic director at Motown years ago. And he got the job when he was 19. The Four Tops recommended him. And he said nothing to Berry Gordy because Berry Gordy was God at Motown. And when they were trying to find a brand for Motown, Berry Gordy said, Motown is the sound of Black America. And everybody said, yay. And Harry Weber said, no. He said, you have something better? He risked his job. He said, no. He said, Motown is not the sound of Black America. He said, Motown is the sound of young America. And it's those type of things that I feel like we can't overlook. Like I am in a creative space right now where creativity is coming from a lot of spaces that, like Quincy Jones, you have to get back to decategorizing things. Our music, almost religious in interpretation, our relationships with our parents. You have to classify things. You have to take them out of categories, decategorize things, and have them to be fresh. So when you speak to folks, it means a lot more. I almost forgot. Can I give a shout out What's going on, Bilal? Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, beloved. Thank you so much for coming on. And my dear sister, how are you? Sister Sonia, good to see you in the place. Are you guys in the same place? I'm assuming you are. All right. Sis, good to see you too, sis. She said, good to see you. Thank you so much. It's always good to see everybody. Yes, I am going to. My mom been killing me with that tea, boy. Whew. That stein is about that big, but I've been taking it. And when your parents try and take care of you, listen to me. Your parents try to take care of you, you know, don't act like a kid like I did. I had to publicly apologize to my mom. I'm publicly apologizing to my mom right now. My mom wanted to go out and get my prescriptions. I was worried about her driving. Made a big fuss. She went out and left anyway. But I realized, and I was wrong, and I apologized. I said, Mom, I put my feelings about what your capacity were over what your compassion was. And I have to learn that. Your parents go take care of you, and we're the same way. So if you have parents, whether they're in good health, bad health, call them, give them a hug, and say thank you for taking care of me when I had a big snotty nose. Give a shout out. Sister Sakina Rashid. Wa alaikum assalam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to the show. Hope that you're doing well. So let me tell you about this thing about the genius of Quincy Jones and why it's important. We're a bit in a creative abyss. Quincy Jones gave an interview and he was watching a picture of Prince. Now, this is Prince. He was watching a picture of Prince play piano. And Prince, it sounded good, because you don't know anything. And Quincy Jones says, he's okay. He said, he's okay. He kind of said he's capable. He said, nothing special. Now, anyone would go, how are you going to say that about Prince? Nothing special. But then you realize he was childhood pals with Ray Charles. Ray Charles taught him how to read music in Braille. That tells you, brothers and sisters, that he's been around. And his genius is not just for the music. That's why I thought we should talk about it today. His genius is a little bit different, meaning that it's applicable to the world. At 89 years old, he now has the vision to look back. Some of us are getting in that space now where, sort of like when you hear music and it's being redone, not once, but twice, somebody does a redo and you're like, oh, that's horrible. Because we've been around. And even in society somewhat, we're seeing redos. The thing about music and creativity, I won't even say specifically for, I won't just say, for African Americans. I'm going to say this for Native Americans. I'm going to do a show about Native Americans too in the recession. But what I thought was important was that Quincy Jones said that the music narrates sociological change of people. It narrates sociological change of people, sociological understanding and acceptance. We are the music. If you go to the 70s, you're going to hear a certain type of music. If you go to the 80s, you're going to hear a certain type of music. 90s, you're going to hear a certain type of sociological ping along with that music. Some is sound, some is noise, but it's going to be a pinging, if you will. And that pinging is of overall opinion of how music reflected the times and the sentiment of the times. And what is interesting is that largely, and I say this carefully, people in my age group and a little bit older, we don't look at people in our peer group and go, that's the one. That's the one that's going to lead us to. That's the one. We don't. We look at the Quincy Joneses, the Farrakhan's. We're looking at Joe Biden. We're looking at all these people, whether you agree with Biden or Farrakhan. My point is, leadership now is not attached to our sociological accents. Like we don't look at people in our group for, and this is rare because Quincy Jones in this time, that's what they did. They played music, and Martin Luther King would say, I like that. Train would play, and Malcolm would go, I like that. James Baldwin would write, and Honorable Elijah Muhammad go, I like that. And we're in some regards, we're missing that. And it's a painful miss. It's a very painful absence. I want to give a shout out to Sister Satana. She just made it on the show. Shout out, Sister Satana. Hope you're doing well. But I'm saying something, and it's at the behest of my own soul, that we need to start establishing a sociological imprint the same way Quincy Jones did with the music. That we can't be afraid of people trying to take your voting rights, people trying to do this or that. The power is in the will. As Quincy Jones said, you can't get an A if you're afraid to get an F. You can't win a fight if you're afraid to throw a punch. You can lose a fight without throwing a punch, but you can't win one without throwing a punch. You can't win a debate without saying something. And I think the bravado of Quincy Jones and the people he worked with musically, Ella Fitzgerald, Dinah Washington, Sarah Vaughan, these weren't just women singers. These were powerful women singers. And he's figured a way, he's not figured a way, the universe has figured a way to literally spread him through from the time of the bossa nova to writing, composing music for Frank Sinatra, to writing Sanford and Son, to the Dude, to Just Once, to Razzmatazz, to the point he was the only guy to get Michael Jackson and Prince together to talk about working on a song together. That song was bad. They never worked on it. It ended up bad. But beginning to see my sense of urgency, even in my own art right now, and I do a lot with my own art, there's a type of stagnation. There's a sad type of stagnation. And the stagnation comes from lacking, in some regards, competitive juice. That people are doing different things. That person over there is doing something different. And that person over there is trying something different. And in the marketplace is empty. It's literally empty. And as we sit here, as people that take in this show, and we sit here, and I sit here as a creative and deal with other creatives, very, very few people. Hold on a minute. Is my sound out again? Okay. But my point is, and I'll try to wrap this up a little bit. Everybody has a little Quincy Jones in them. I guarantee. Everybody has a little Quincy Jones in them. And that Quincy Jones part is not Quincy Jones, the music producer or the trumpeter or the music composer. It's a Quincy Jones that craves the little details. The little details. In one of his interviews, they asked him about creative differences with Michael Jackson when they did Michael Jackson's album Against the Wall. Michael Jackson didn't like Don't Stop Till You Get Enough, the opening. He didn't like the violins. Now, listen, these are violins back in the day. These are strings, legitimate strings. He didn't like them. And he told Quincy Jones, take them out. And Quincy Jones said, no. And he said no to Michael Jackson now. He wasn't Thriller Mike, but he was Michael Jackson. But he told him no. And the guy asked him, why did you tell him no? He said, because Michael Jackson can't teach me anything. He said, I don't want to know how to sing. I don't know how to dance. He says, this is what we do. We come with everything he needs. And I believe if you listen to Don't Stop Till You Get Enough, The opening is the hook. That's what drives the song. Can you imagine that song without that? I can't. And that's the beauty of Quincy Jones. That these things that we talk about, there's this sociological accoutrements, if you will, are seamless. And I believe that all of us have that power to do the same thing, to create art, to create things that have meaning for us, to create relationships that are powerful and are seamless. Now, I could be wrong. I could be wrong. And it's not for everybody. Like you said, you can get an A if you're not afraid to get an F. Meaning, it's not about the grade. Are you willing to take the test? Well, are you ready? Are you willing to take the test? I think I am. I've taken a lot of them, and we'll take a lot more moving forward. But let me throw this out here. Why is this important? Why am I talking about it now? We are spiritually, politically, morally, ethically in one of the most uncreative eras of our time. The desire to do things that were creatively correct, creatively fair, creatively equitable, the desire to undo those things tells you that we live in an environment that is wishing to crash amongst itself. Comedy has become really hard for me because of the redundancy. Because literally the redundancy. I wrote a joke. I told this joke to Chappelle when I was in Ohio. I said, hey, Dave. I said, you know who never has to worry about getting monkeypox? He said, who? I said, the monkeys. He fell out laughing. And he said, what's wrong? I said, it was too easy. It was too easy. And if we are going to tie into things that are just too easy, then the game is lost. We're fighting voter registration. Do you know how long we've been fighting for voting rights? The economy is just, do you remember? How many of you remember? I remember when we had the long gas lines. We didn't have high gas. Let me break this down. We didn't have high gas prices. We didn't have gas. Big long lines to get gas. And people treat this like it's the end of the world. You know, in my business, when I was a school teacher, we had a lot of disorders. And you have to label kids with disorders. I didn't like to do that. They had one. It was called an amoral disorder. And the concept of an amoral disorder, and this was valid among some of my students. The characteristics of an amoral disorder was that people were so anxiety filled and riddled that they would fail at something they never tried. It was paralysis on education. It was paralysis on social engagement. It was paralysis on just life skills. And I realize now that a lot of people carry that. A lot of people carry that. But my point is, and we pray for those people, but my point is we don't have to. And some of us have to do like Brother Quincy Jones said, well, you got to break out your genius. Genius is not meant to be in a box. You got to break it out because genius evolves. And you connect the dots with your own creativity. If anybody wants to learn the story of how Doug and I put together Confessions of a Muslim Comedian, or how we did the sound for Love Supreme, it was a labor of love. You had to constantly keep going back. But with this idea that there was a process that would yield something at the end that would be beautiful, that would be wonderful, that would be purposeful. We can't get away from that. We are the evolution of creative narrative. When Quincy Jones talks about every interview, when he talks about when he was a child, he begins that he was in Chicago. And he say when he was in Chicago up to the time he was 10 years old, all he ever wanted to do was be a gangster. Then they left Chicago and went to Seattle, Washington. And he got there, he said all he wanted to be was a gangster. And then one of his escapades with his young pals, they broke into a building and they went into some room. He broke into a room and there was a piano there. And he touched the piano. He said it changed his life. He said because he knew the sound of the piano, but he didn't know that people touched him, that people made music with these instruments. Just the connection. It's powerful. It's palpable. Every one of us needs to go out someplace and do something different. Metaphorically, touch the keys on the piano. If it's you done it for, see if you get a different sound. Because the need and necessity for us to dig into this sociological accoutrements and develop them not just for ourselves, but the people that come around in our own space, it's imperative. It's literally imperative. Because the news does not know your genius. And let me say this, the news does not need to know your genius, but you do. All right, that's the show for today. Pardon my voice and the sound issues earlier. I'm trying to do the best I can. Maybe I should have tested it. Forgive me. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for your patience for last week. We'll be back tomorrow. Have a special show. We'll be hosting Brother Suhaib. No, I'm not on Tuesday. I'm sorry. Brother Suhaib Ali will be hosting on Wednesday. He is the COO of ushub.tv. So yeah, ushub.tv, he's going to be on. I want you guys to tune in because this is going to be a little bit something tied in what we're doing. So doing something different. This is the latest Muslim streaming service. And we're going to ask them some questions. I'm going to ask some questions. I want you to ask some questions. Don't sit there in the comment section like this. Ask your questions. Touch those piano keys. Don't be afraid to get that F if you're trying to get that A. All right. Take care of yourself. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.